People have to live in unity.
We are still in transition.
Civil society has been decimated.
Of course, we rely on media.
And I think the government has not done enough.
The international community has failed to respond.
No place in the world is perfect.
Hello viewers, I'm your host Uzma Jafri with another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show. India unveiled its federal budget this week, which has laid out plans to ramp up government spending to boost growth despite growing fiscal deficit numbers. India was hit massively by the pandemic in 2020, but the third largest economy of Asia bounced back last year, and the budget aims to sustain that momentum, though a run-up in consumer prices poses challenge for the country.
India unveiled a bigger budget of 39.45 trillion rupees, equivalent to $529.7 billion for the coming fiscal year, stepping up investments on highways and affordable housing to put growth on a firmer footing as the economy recovers from the pandemic. Growth in the current fiscal year ending to March 2022 is estimated at 9.2%, coming off the low base and slowing to 8 to 8.5% in the coming fiscal year, which would still be the fastest among the world's major economies. The fiscal deficit for the current year is expected at 6.9% of gross domestic product, slightly more than the 6.8% targeted earlier. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said the government will be targeting a deficit of 6.4% of GDP next year. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the federal budget 2022-23 will boost growth in the infrastructure, investment and employment sector and will ensure a bright future for the youth of the country.
ये बजट more infrastructure, more investment, more growth और more jobs की नई संभावनाओं से भरा हुआ है। और एक नया क्षेत्र और खुला है और वो है ग्रीन जॉब्स का। ये बजट तत्कालीन आवश्यकताओं का भी समाधान करता है और देश के युवाओं के उज्जवल भविष्य को भी सुनिश्चित करता है।
Government also announced that it will soon launch its own digital currency, clearing the air around the legitimacy of the virtual currency, which many believed was at the cusp of receiving draconian government measures. Industry estimates suggest there are 15 million to 20 million crypto investors in India, with total crypto holdings of around $5.37 billion. There will be a 30% tax imposition on income from cryptocurrencies and other digital currency.
For the taxation of virtual digital assets, I propose to provide that any income from transfer of any virtual digital asset shall be taxed at the rate of 30%, 30%.
New Delhi has pegged the divestment target for next financial year at $8.70 billion, while also lowering the target for the current fiscal year, fueling expectations that the size of this year's initial public offering of state-run giant insurer Life Insurance Corp could be smaller than earlier expected. Indian households are grappling with rising costs of living at a time when jobs and incomes have taken a hit from the pandemic. Experts, however, opine that recovery is on its way and the country should be able to make up for the losses in the coming few months. Reacting to the budget, Indian stock market expert and President of Indian Commerce and Industries said they were pleased with the budget and it will jumpstart and give a boost to the economy.
We are, as a business, very pleased with that there has been broad consistency in the policy, in the tax rates. We are also pleased with the boldness of the budget, that we are all conscious that it will take some time for private consumption expenditure and the private capital expenditure to pick up.
Experts have also given a thumbs up for the foreign direct investment. With the country moving up strongly and steadily in the ease of doing business, it gets an edge to attract private and foreign investors. Investor confidence is strong in infrastructure sectors, supported by favorable long-term financing conditions, recovery stimulus packages, and overseas investment programs. Global foreign direct investment flows showed a strong rebound in 2021, up 77% to an estimated $1.65 trillion from $929 billion in 2020, surpassing their pre-COVID-19 level. Measures taken by the government on the fronts of FDI policy reforms, investment facilitation, and ease of doing business have resulted in increased FDI inflows into the country. The outlook for global FDI in 2022 is positive. And as the Prime Minister of India said in the latest Davos summit, it is the best time to invest in India.
Moving on. Students in Afghanistan have expressed contentment after the universities were opened in light of a rise in temperature this week. Both girls and boys have returned, but they are not allowed to sit together. Either separate classes are being held or they have different schedule. The Taliban that claim to have reformed haven't come up with any official decision vis-a-vis freedoms of girls and women as yet. The international community, however, want to be assured of women's rights before unfreezing Afghanistan's accounts and providing any international assistance.
Afghanistan's public universities opened this week for the first time since the Taliban took over the country last year, with female students joining their male counterparts heading back to campus. The Taliban administration has not officially announced its plan for female university students, but head of Nangarhar University said male and female students at the institution would attend separate classes, a practice already in place in many provinces. Students in large part of Afghanistan were denied of education owing to the situation that developed in the aftermath of Taliban takeover of the country.
دا چې پوهنتونونه دوباره شروع شول نو موږ ډېر د خوشحالۍ احساس کوو ځکه ډېرې هیلې مو لرلې چې بیا پوهنتونونه شروع شي او خپلو درسونو ته ادامه ورکړو.
Students said they had hoped universities would start again and they would be able to continue their studies. The only change that they have witnessed so far is that the class hours have changed. Girls and boys study separately.
داسې خاص تفاوت نه و چې راغلو تیر ځل به م راتللو صنف کې به کېناستلو خپلې زده کړې به م کولې دا ځل هم چې راغلو موږ په همغه شکل باندې صنف کې کېناستلو خو یوازینی تفاوت دا و چې شفټونه سره جدا شوي دي نجونې بېلې زده کړې کوي هلکان بېلې زده کړې کوي.
The international community has made education of girls and women a key part of its demands as the Taliban seek more foreign aid and the unfreezing of overseas assets. Under their previous rule from 1996 to 2001, the hardline Islamist Taliban barred women and girls from education. The group says it has changed since resuming power on August 15, but school-aged girls in many provinces have still not been allowed to return to school. An education official said universities had been given different options to keep female students isolated, including separated classes and staggered operating hours.
دا پوهنتون چې کله شروع کېږي نو موږ د دې د امنیت لپاره چمتو نظم برابر کړی دی انشاءالله. زموږ ملګري به د دې ښایسته نظم برابروي. دا زموږ ملګري ولي انشاءالله ښایسته نظم به ناست دی، ښایسته چک پوینټ دی، تلاشي کوي. هر څوک چې راځي ګاډی وځي ډالۍ تلاشي کېږي. هر څوک چې راځي به کې ورسره یې که هغه استاد یې که محصل یې چې شک پرې کېږي هغه موږ تلاشي کوو.
Only universities in warmer provinces have opened as of now. Tertiary institutions in colder areas, including Kabul, are due to resume on February 26. While seeing women back is an encouraging sign for women emancipation, the Taliban have been inconsistent with their words and policies, and it cannot be said for sure that the situation is going to remain same unless the Taliban comes with an official paper.
Moving on. Christians and other bodies representing the minorities in Pakistan have demanded expeditious justice for the attack on a priest and his colleague in which the former succumbed to bullet injuries last week. They have also demanded security for others who are now living under a shadow of fear. While Pakistan has witnessed a rise in insurgent attacks in the past few months, the minorities blame they don't feel safe anyway, and powerful bodies must come together to save them.
Gunmen shot and killed Pastor William Siraj and wounded another Christian cleric as they drove home from Sunday service at a small church located on the outskirts of Peshawar last week. The service, attended by hundreds of mourners, was held at the British colonial era All Saints Church in Peshawar, the site of a twin suicide bombing that killed scores of worshippers in 2013. Siraj was targeted just after he had attended Sunday Mass at the Memorial Church, which is nestled in a cramped brick wall lane surrounded by the modest houses of the local Christian community, many of whom shifted there after the 2013 suicide attack. The attack has reignited fears among the community that had not recovered entirely from the 2013 incident.
कम्युनिटी इंतहाई अनसिक्योर फील करती है. हम पहले भी खुद को अनसिक्योर फील करते थे और जब जब ऐसे वाक़यात होते हैं तो उसके बाद से ये अनसिक्योरिटी हमारे यहाँ मज़ीद बढ़ जाती है.
Global rights watchdog Human Rights Watch said in a report released recently that religious minorities in Pakistan continue to face violence as authorities fail to provide adequate protection or hold perpetrators to account. Community members have demanded expeditious justice into the issue and have urged the authorities to provide security to all the priests.
कल ही मैंने आईजी साहब से रिक्वेस्ट की कि जी बाकी जो हमारे पादी से बहान हैं उनके लिए भी मेहरबानी से किया जाए और ख़ास कर इतवार के दिन जो पूरे इलाके हैं उनके वहाँ पे ज़रूर ब ज़रूर गश्त होनी चाहिए और गश्त होगी और वहाँ पे जब जो ही हमारे पादी से बहान बाहर निकले तो उनके लिए बड़ा ज़रूरी है कि उनकी लुक आफ्टर की जाए.
While nobody has claimed the attack, the region has seen a surge in militant attacks in recent days. Most of them have been claimed by Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan or TTP. TTP associates itself with the Afghan Taliban, which the government of Pakistan hasn't been able to negotiate successfully with in the last few months. Some observers, however, say that the government doesn't care about the minorities anyway.
Minorities की कोई जगह नहीं है पाकिस्तान में. जिसका दिल चाहता है उठ के जो मर्जी कोई झूठे इल्ज़ाम लगा रहा है, कोई ब्लास्फेमी लॉ के अंदर लोगों को अंदर किया जा रहा है. पाकिस्तान में कोई किसी किस्म का ऐसा लॉ नहीं है कि जो मिनॉरिटी को बचा सके.
Observers say Christians have historically been mistreated, marginalized, attacked in Pakistan. In 2013, at least 78 people were killed in a suicide attack outside an Anglican church in Peshawar after Sunday Mass. And it is not just Christians, but minorities across Pakistan have blamed Islamabad time and again of being discriminatory. One of the significant issues being faced by minority communities is the abuse of the blasphemy law. People belonging to minority religions are often falsely accused of using derogatory remarks against the Islamic Prophet Muhammad, resulting in fines, lengthy prison sentences, and sometimes the death penalty.
Time now for Asia This Week, the stories from across the continent.
Turkish warplanes hit Kurdish militant targets including training camps, shelters and ammunition storage areas in Iraq and northern Syria, the Turkish Defense Ministry said this week. The airstrikes are part of an ongoing Turkish campaign in Iraq and Syria against the militants of the Kurdistan Workers' Party and the Syrian Kurdish YPG militia, both of which Turkey regards as terrorist groups. Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar said that the operation had been successful and that many terrorists were killed. Iraq's military condemned what it called a Turkish infiltration into Iraqi airspace as a violation of its sovereignty. Baghdad is widely viewed, however, to be giving Ankara free rein to attack the militants. The Kurdistan region of Iraq's counter-terrorism service said several people had been killed and injured in the airstrikes in Iraq and Syria but provided no further details. The PKK took up arms against the Turkish state in 1984. More than 40,000 people have been killed in the conflict, which in the past was mainly focused in southeast Turkey. Tourists who flock to the United Arab Emirates in search of winter sun appear undeterred by recent missile attacks on the Gulf state by Yemen's Houthi group that have prompted travel warnings from the United States and Britain. Data suggests that tourism industry centered on Dubai is booming over the peak season, with hoteliers and reservation agents reporting high demand despite the renewal of COVID-19 travel restrictions in many countries late last year. Beaches are thronged and restaurants thriving, with the Expo World Fair bringing more visitors to the Middle East trade, finance and tourism hub. October to March, when many Europeans swap freezing winters for the sunny Arabian Peninsula, is peak season for the tourist industry, which according to ratings agency S&P accounted for 13% of Dubai's gross domestic product in 2020. According to Hopper, a travel search engine that uses historical data to predict and analyze flight prices, searches for the UAE were stable in the first half of January and trended up 22% later in the month. Hospitality data company STR said in December that Dubai's hotel industry was reporting room occupancy of 78.2%. In order to assist the fight against coronavirus pandemic, Japan has announced a plan to donate 20 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines to 7 emerging countries directly and 11 million doses to 13 countries through the COVAX facility. The countries set to receive the vaccines were thrilled to hear the news. Furthermore, $124 million for the cold chain vaccine transport were donated to 59 countries. The national television station of Cambodia broadcasted a live program lasting over an hour to celebrate the arrival of the vaccines. Japan donated 2 million vaccine doses to Thailand. The AstraZeneca vaccine was administered at hospitals and clinics. Japan's contribution to its neighboring countries in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic has been warmly received. The international community has lauded Japan for their humanitarian efforts. Advanced smokeless incineration technology is being used for treating industrial waste in Hokkaido. JICA is working tirelessly to solve social issues in developing countries. Above all, efforts to tackle environmental problems and decarbonizations are defined as urgent in each country. Shuva Industrialist is going ahead with technology transfer of industrial waste incineration technology. JICA strongly supports its overseas expansion. Almost 360 units were provided to Vietnam. Regular online meetings with local staffs and hospital officials in Vietnam take place regularly to evaluate projects and discuss further cooperation.
Now we move on to Jammu and Kashmir, where as the temperature dips below zero, people start moving towards traditional ways to fight the severe cold. One among them is the use of traditional dry fish, which is commonly known as hogard in local language. Let's know more about this savory delicacy that sells like hotcakes in Kashmiri markets during winter.
When it's freezing in Kashmir, it's time for sun-dried veggies and fish. As the harsh winter season cuts the valley off from rest of the country for a few days, it alters people's everyday routines, and this is especially true for food habits. At one side, where the strong smell of spices and dry vegetables rule the market, on the other, the local traditional dry fish becomes the much-loved alternative to fresh fish. One can spot a number of small vendors selling hogard on their hand carts, especially in the old Srinagar city and Batmalu market. While talking about the tradition of eating dry fish during winters, a historian, Zarif Ahmad Zarif, said that it's the necessity that led to its invention.
ट्रेडिशन की बात अलग है, जो रिवायात है ना, ये तो कहते हैं ना, ज़रूरत ईजाद की माँ है. हमें ये चीज़ें, हम तो अक्टूबर के एंड से यहाँ सब्जियाँ सुखाते थे. 2-4 महीने के लिए हमारे घरों में ये चीज़ें सुखा कर रखते थे. और ये होगाड़, जिसको सूखी मछलियाँ, जिसको हम होगाड़ कहते हैं, पच होगाड़ वो खुली होती थी, तो और राज होगाड़ जिसको कहती थी, तो वो मतलब पूरी होती थी. स्मॉल फिशेस जो हुआ करती थी उसको राज होगाड़ कहते थे. और खुली हुई जो जिसको बीच में दो हिस्सों में मतलब अलग करते थे, उसको पचौगाड़ कहते थे. वो भी सौगात रहता था हमारे सर्दियों के लिए. ये तो अक्सर हमारे तवों पर ये तो मतलब तड़का लगा कर खाते थे. बच्चे भी शौक से खाते थे और बड़े भी. ये सूखी मछलियों का भी हमारा यही जो रिवायत रह चुकी है, ये ज़रूरत की चीज़ है.
Local residents can be seen flocking the markets in large numbers to buy hogard, as it is not just a traditional winter delicacy for them, but also a means to fight severe cold conditions. It prevents health issues like running nose, dry cough and chest problems, and also keeps them warm. Moreover, the fishes in dried form are also very low in calories, cholesterol and salt, and contain a high dose of minerals and vitamins, which are essential for the development of the body.
सर्दी में ये ज़्यादा लोग पसंद करते हैं. हाँ, जब किसी को बुखार होती है, किसी को चेस्ट खराब होती है, उस वक्त वो खाते हैं. पहले हकीम लोग भी खाते हैं. वो लोगों को रिपीट करते हैं, तुम लोग भी ये खाते हैं, या बाहर की लोग आते हैं वो भी ये खाते हैं.
Consumed during the 3-4 months of winter and spring season, hogard has been a part of Kashmir's age-old tradition and is maintaining its relevance till date.
Hogard is mostly consumed by Kashmiris during winters, as there are no chances of insect infestation during this season. With that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Goodbye and take care.